Okay, welcome back to another edition of Brew Crack. Today we have the amazingly talented Zak from Crosby, which I'm sure you are probably a little bit familiar with.
Yeah, so we've, as Joan said, we've got Zak, who, despite he and I being great friends, I still cannot pronounce his last name.
That was going to be my next thing. I was going to say you have to spell it. So I'm out. I'm not doing the interview anymore.
Spell your first name.
So Zak is the director of Dank from our good friends at Crosby Hops. So Zak, tell us a little bit about yourself and what director of Dank at Crosby Hop means.
Sure. So my name is Zak Schroerlucke. So I pronounce my last name. It's a long German last name. And pronounced with an American twang is Schroerlucke. I think in German it'd be closer to something like Schroerlucke. But anyhow, my family's from Louisville, Kentucky and Atlanta, Georgia. So it's got a little southern twang to it. Will, I know you're from a similar area, so you get it. You get what's going on there. I've been the quote-unquote director of Dank at Crosby for about 4 years now. In other words, it'd be the marketing manager. So I get to do a lot of the fun stuff, throw events, design websites, ads, just make sure our brand experience, whether you're on the farm or you're in Germany for Brew or you're in San Diego for CBC, that you have a positive and true to brand experience when you're doing something with Crosby. It's a blast. Before I worked at Crosby, I worked at a brewery in Atlanta, Georgia for about 10 years, Sweetwater Brewing Company, if anyone's familiar with it. I was really fortunate. Started working there when I was in college, right when I was of age to start drinking. At that time, I'm not proud of it. What I was, my daily beers then were a little different than what they are now. Budgets were a little tighter, but also craft beer wasn't as big of a thing then. But I got lucky. My roommate at the time got sick, and he was what's called a parking guy at the brewery. And basically, the way the beer laws worked in Georgia is you couldn't sell beer from a brewery. Had to go through a 3-tier system. So the workaround there was, well, we'll give the beer away, and we'll charge $10 for a souvenir pint glass. I think that worked pretty well, and it did. And so we would get these, we were only allowed to be open for 2 hours at a time. So we get these massive rush of people would come in, hundreds and hundreds of people would come in all at once for 2 hours. And so we had to summon the parking cars, right? Direct, not park in our neighbors' lots. So that's how I started. So I started literally from the bottom. I remember my first craft beer ever. It was after my first shift. I was leaving. I got paid $20, and I got some free beer out of it. And as I was walking out the door, one of the bartenders was like, "Hey, man, make sure you get your shift beer." And I was like, "Shift beer?" All right. So I came back in and sat down, and I remember they poured me. It was a Georgia Brown. It was a brown ale, and it was the first time I really had a beer that had that much expression and character. There was a story behind it, and I think I was hooked instantly. Again, that first day on the job, I was filling in for a friend, so I never was really hired there. And the next day, I was not invited back, and I showed back up, and I helped park cars. They gave me $20, free beer, and I just kept doing that for a while. And it was a great college gig until right when I graduated. They invited me to come in to start giving tours, kind of learn about the brand, experience side of it, marketing, and that just kind of snowballed and turned into me being the bar manager, turning into handling some of the private event side of things, helping with a little bit of brewing, and then went into the sales side, ultimately fell into this role of marketing there. I was the brand experience specialist and field marketing manager for Atlanta. And it was this perfect blend of being creative, getting to work with bands and events, of course getting to work with brewers from all over the country, of course the brewers at the brewery were great. It was this perfect blend of creativity, craft beer, a little bit of production. It was awesome. And so I fell in love with it, but ultimately it ran its course. That for about 10 years, I was looking for the next phase in life. Moved out to Oregon on a whim. Didn't really have a job lined up. And kind of magically aligned with a guy named Bo Avers, who covers the Southeast for Crosby as an account manager. Met him at a bar through a mutual friend, and we connected, and 1 beer turned to 3 beers, which I think turned to 6 beers. We started kind of talking about the beer business and his stories and his side of things, what I've been through, and we became good buddies. It wasn't maybe a few weeks later, I was texting and I was like, "Hey man, I wanted to work for a hop farm." how do you do that? Do you apply online? But what is that? How does it work? Like, I have no idea how that works. And luckily, the Crosby brand was growing. They were needing some marketing help, and set up a meeting with myself and Blake Crosby. We met at the Upper Lip in Portland, awesome little craft beer spot. And I think we ultimately talked about music, drums. Blake and I both play drums, craft beer, some of our favorite breweries and brewers, and didn't really talk about the job much. And just kind of hit it off, and the connection was there, and I think I fit the culture well, and I like those guys a lot. And I got hired a couple weeks later, and it's been a wild ride ever since. Our growth has been some at times staggering, just to try to keep up with. I remember one of the first things Brian Crosby, Blake's uncle, said to me was, like, listen, he's like, our business is doing this. We don't really know what's up here, but we're right here. We're on the ride. So kind of hope you're ready for it. And it has been that way. Blake kind of gives me the creative freedom to do whatever, as long as there's good results from it and it matches the brand and fits our culture. And it's been an absolute blast for 4 years, and couldn't ask for a better gig. So out of a long rambling story, that's pretty much how I got here, and have met you guys along the way, and it's been fantastic.
One thing that I find kind of funny is mine and your story of getting into the craft beer industry is kind of the same. I just one day started showing up to a brewery and started volunteering, and the next day I came back and just kept coming back until one day I think they decided they had to start paying me because I just wasn't going away. And so kind of a similar story to yours there. One thing that you touched on at the beginning, and part of your job is making sure that people, no matter where they are, get the Crosby experience or they understand the Crosby culture. Can you maybe elaborate on that a little bit? Like maybe a little bit of the history of Crosby Hops, like what is the Crosby story? What is the Crosby brand experience, and so on?
Sure. So we'll start with the story. So the story goes, Blake Crosby, who's our current president, CEO, my boss. He is the 5th generation Crosby to run the show. The family started growing hops in the Willamette Valley in Oregon in 1900. So we are approaching our 120th harvest, which is kind of mind-boggling. And like the way the hop industry works, still does work this way, is you have a hop grower who's going to grow hops. They're going to pick those hops, dry those hops, put them into bales, and you tend to sell those bales to a third-party distributor who would then process those bales into pellets and then sell the pellets directly to brewers around the country or around the world. And that's where kind of the profit margin is. The growers on the other end, there still can be make great money doing that, but you get times to be a little handcuffed to pricing, the market, and through the history of the hop industry, there has been times of great wealth and times of famine. So Blake's kind of seen his family go through that. And that's kind of the history of kind of where they got to when Blake stepped in. Blake's younger, I think he's 35 now, somewhere around there. So pretty young to be the CEO of the company, but has a different vision, I think, than Crosby's past. Looking at it a little more long term. And when he got out of college, he graduated in 2000 and I think it was 2007, 2008, which was not a great time to be getting out of college and finding work outside of his family farm. I'm not sure at that time, I'll let him speak on this, but not sure if that was necessarily the number one job he wanted coming out of college. The fact that he grew up on the hop farm, maybe wanted to explore and do something different, but at the time he found himself back in Oregon, helping his dad on the farm. And when he was learning about the business structure, he had kind of an epiphany. And this epiphany came from occasionally selling hops directly to brewers to his buddies in Oregon. His buddies in Portland, which is about 45 minutes from the farm here in Woodburn. And saw that there was an opportunity to vertically integrate his family's business if they were to invest in a few things. He basically had some finished pellets that he sold to some brewers in Portland, and came back with a couple, sizable checks, gave him to his dad. It's like, I think I've got an idea for our business. Let's vertically integrate. So he was able to, I'll use the words, I'm sure he put up a great business proposition and business plan, but he talked his family into personally signing on a loan to build an on-farm pellet mill. It was the first on-farm pellet mill in Oregon. I think his peers in the industry at the time thought it was a little crazy to build a pellet mill in Oregon. There's already plenty of mills around. This is kind of a totally different business. What are you doing? And he saw the long-term vision and saw success in writing, especially then, the wave of craft beer that was still in the U.S. And ultimately partnered with someone in the beer business, someone in the craft beer business that had extensive experience working at a pellet facility, as well as being a craft brewer and owner of a craft brewery. So it was kind of the perfect mix. So we started focusing on soft pellets, started focusing on quality of pellets. He knew that processing his own hops on the farm, they were going to be quality hops, but he also started utilizing his multi-generational family relationships to partner with some of the best growers throughout the Northwest and ensure that the Crosby pellet was going to be ultimately a higher quality, softer, more craft-inspired pellet, and that was the proposition he offered brewers. And as you guys know, who know brewers well, at the end of the day, you can put as many bells and whistles on a product, brand it beautifully, but for a brewer, what matters at the end of the day is quality flavor, quality aroma, quality all across the board. So that's what Blake focused on. And we found our niche, and ultimately that niche has blossomed and grown. And so that's kind of how we've gotten to where we are today as a story. And then talking about the Crosby brand, I think the best word to describe kind of who we are as a company is authentic and transparent. That's what we shoot for. All of us that work here, we all love two sides of it. I mean, we love craft beer in the community. All of us, I mean, when we're on our time off, whether it's the weekends or on holiday, we tend to find ourselves at breweries. Not necessarily working, but our job is social, and being at a brewery never really feels like work for us. So, holidays in Colorado, holidays in California, we find ourselves at Pizza Port, at Upslope. We find ourselves at Creature Comforts in Atlanta when we have time off. I'm always, whenever I go to Atlanta to visit my buddies, I'm always stopping my Sweetwater and hang out for a while. It just feels natural. So being authentic in that we love the end product and love what our customers do, that was easy. And then sustainability is a big part of our business, and all of us love being sustainable at home as well as here in the business. I know when I started working here, we have at the time there was 5 different types of recycling we have here on the farm. You have to kind of learn it. You have to learn how to deconstruct your coffee cup in order to put these certain items in the certain bins they need to recycle properly. And I remember that was slightly intimidating at first, but now it's become so second nature that I've applied that to my home life. When I travel and I go to different airports and I see there's no recycling, it's like mind-blowing to me. And so that side of our business is really, it's gotten into the DNA of all of our employees. And I don't know, it's probably the best way to describe who we are. Authentic, love the craft beer industry. Our office is outdoors. Our office is, we have a 500-acre hop farm here. Pretty clear that we need to take care of our environments so that we can have more generations after this 5th one to keep growing hops and letting Crosby flourish as a company. So that one's, the environment's in our face, and we do our absolute best to take great care.
I think us as a company are very much on the same page of sustainability and making sure that we do our part to leave my boss James's farm in a better condition for his kids. That's something that's also very much ingrained into our daily lives and, as you said, our employees' DNA. Now, one thing you brought up is the Crosby pellet and the pellet quality, and as you said, craft-inspired pellets. And for myself, as someone who's been a brewing customer of Crosby since 2014, that's something that stood out to me when I first met Brian and Bo at the Craft Brewers Conference in 2014. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Crosby pellet? What goes into that? What makes it different? Why is it so badass?
Sure. So when we built the pellet mill, I think it was back in 2011-ish, most pellets in the market were pretty dense. And that kind of comes from prior to IPAs kind of running the show and big aromas being a thing. Dense pellets were efficient. You could pack more alpha into a pellet, pack more into a box, ship it. It made sense, and we get it. But as craft started blossoming and the needs for more delicate aromas and flavors became prominent, we noticed that there was a demand for a soft pellet. We're not going to say we invented the soft pellet, definitely inspired by others. But we kind of found this perfect blend of a pellet that was rigid enough to not fall apart in a bag. You easily dump into a bucket. You never had powder and mess when you would pour out the hops from the bag, but soft enough that as dry hopping rates continued to rise and are continuing to rise, that you could drop a pellet into a 70-degree fermenter and have that pellet dispersed evenly and not have the brewer's nightmare of cleaning out your tanks and finding a giant chunk of dry hop matter that never got wet, never broke apart at the bottom of your tank. So we wanted to try to avoid. Every year, we're kind of slightly adjusting those compression ratios to make the pellets just right. Every variety has a different compression ratio based on oil content. So the more oily the hop, the better it sticks together on its own. The less oily, the more compression you need to make sure those stick. So we're always kind of dialing those in. We actually at one point went almost a tad too soft for our opinions, and we've hardened up just a bit. And man, right now, the 2019 crop, we felt like were our best pellets to date. And so we're sticking with that for 2020 with a few more added features in the pellet mill. And man, they're solid. I love seeing our pellets out in the market. For anyone that has hot pellets in the brewery right now, I mean, do the glass of water test. Drop a pellet into a glass of water that's around 70 degrees. Compare it to competitors' pellets and see how well they disperse, see how well they break up, how evenly, how long it takes. I think that's a good representation of kind of what's happening in fermentation.
Let's try that.
Speaking of Crosby pellets, I always try to drink a beer during these videos that was made with some of our ingredients, and just released today. We've got Galway Bay's Oregon Grown IPA, which was made with their select lots of El Dorado and Idaho 7, and I wish I could get you a can of this today, Zach.
I know. I saw that yesterday. I saw that came out. It looks phenomenal. We've got a few collabs moving around in Europe right now that I'm jealous. Too far away. I can't get it. So I just have to listen to what social says from people that are drinking it, and of course the brewers that made it. They're all pretty stoked on some of the beers that have going on. I brought a beer to drink today as well. So although it's 9 in the morning here, I kind of live on a 24-hour schedule. Anything can happen anytime, so I'm ready to go with you if you want.
And let's just assume we're in the same time zone, and it's 5:21 here.
Yeah.
So you can totally crack that beer, man.
Right, perfect. So I brought a collab we did with Bells. It's called Keller Bells. Sorry for the green screen. You can kind of see it there. So this actually started as a collaboration we brewed for CBC. For anyone who doesn't know, CBC is Craft Brewers Conference in the US. It's the cornerstone of our marketing department. So we, in our marketing initiative, it's everything we do. It's where we can get in front of the most customers at once and let people experience our brand in person. When we started doing it, we've been doing CBC, since 2012, maybe 2011, as a company. But over the past 3 years, we stepped it up and started doing big collaboration projects. Last year, we did the global collaboration projects. We did 18 beers. Each beer had one American brewer and one brewer from outside the U.S. that collaborated on a beer, brand new beer, brewed it in the U.S., so I didn't have to import anything. And it was a really fun project, really cool story, and really showcased how small the craft beer community is. It's spread out around the globe, but it was cool that as we were pairing brews together, how many folks had already known each other, had been to the same festivals in Denmark or Ireland or wherever. It was really cool. It was a really fun, enlightening experience. And that was a blast. So this year, the plan was to partner, have a similar concept, but instead of doing international brewers, partnering an American brewer. Wasn't really specifically American, it was US craft. And a grower, a hop grower, whether it was us or one of the mini growers that we sourced from around the Northwest and around the world. We partners. We did 18 beers again. I flew all over the place and brewed them, filmed it, and then my heart got broken in mid-March, late March, when CBC was canceled. So those beers had to find a new life. So most of them were planned initially just for draft release at the show and then at the pubs for the individual breweries. But as COVID kind of took over the world, a lot of the breweries pivoted and put their beer in bottles, cans. So I was lucky enough that Bell's put Keller Bell's, what we called it, into a bottle. It's a Keller beer, so unfiltered lager, about 4.9% alcohol, and we hopped it like a hazy IPA with Strata, Amarillo, and Comet. And it's pretty awesome, man. Drinks like a session IPA, but is super clean, big mouthfeel. I've never had a Keller beer quite in this range of flavor and aroma, so something new to me, and it's awesome. I think it was the right one to drink at 5:20 p.m. My time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was looking forward to my first CBC this year, but as well, so
I know. I was looking forward to getting out there too.
Next year, I'll have to hang in.
That was going to be Joan's first immersion experience in craft beer, and there's really no other opportunity globally to really be introduced to what we all do than the Craft Brewers Conference. I don't think.
Yeah, it's a wild time. It's definitely it can be a little rough on your body. Long days, long nights, early mornings, but it's always so rewarding. I look forward to it every year. It's fantastic.
The one in Nashville was troublesome, especially with pubs in Nashville staying open basically 24/7. Like I don't think anybody got any sleep that week.
Man, the place. I booked this place thinking it was a good idea. We booked an apartment on Broadway, like on the Strip, above a bar. And when I booked it, I was like, this is going to be awesome. We're going to be in the middle of the action. We're above a bar. This is going to be so good. Man, we didn't sleep at all. Like there were Alanis Morris cover bands playing until 4 a.m. We would hear. You could smell the smoke in our place. And then we'd be up at 7 or 8 to get to the trade show for the next day. It was pretty gnarly. And the place we stayed at was on the pictures on Airbnb or wherever we rented it from, it looked like a really nice place. And then we got there and it was clearly a bachelor party, bachelorette party. It was that spot. And they were cleaning up. We showed up a little early and they were cleaning up after the people that were there the night prior. The place was wild. It was sticky stains all on the walls from beer. So we did some beer. But Nashville was awesome. That's been my favorite CBC to date.
I hope your permission to book the Airbnbs for company events got taken away after that.
No, surprisingly not. Still doing it. Yes, surprisingly not. Yeah. So we'll do this. Next year is San Diego. I haven't done my booking there yet, but looking forward to San Diego. It's going to be a blast. Weather's going to be great. Beer, of course, is awesome. The craft beer scene is incredible in San Diego. Great spot to host it.
Back to points on topic besides us all getting wasted in Nashville. We can talk about that again later, though. So one thing that we try to do at Locker Brewing Stores is work with who we feel, who our customers feel are the best producers in the world, and obviously our relationship with you guys extends over to that. Do you want to, maybe we can both, you start off, talk about relationship with Crosby Hops and Locker Brewing Stores, how that started, how it's developing, what the future holds, where we're all going, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I can start with the need. As a company were growing, we started growing in the U.S. We noticed that there was a similar, if not mirrored, craft beer movement happening throughout the world, throughout Europe, happening now in Asia, happening in Australia. And so we saw a need for hops, for craft quality hops, I would say, Europe, and didn't really know how to get over there and sell without dealing with containers of hops that was pretty much like our minimum, right? For a customer, if they wanted Crosby hops before we met you guys, I think the move was, oh, we can air freight pallets to you, which isn't really the most efficient way to do this, or want a whole container. We could sell you that. And so it just didn't really make sense. And so connecting with you guys was awesome because it allowed us to sell in smaller quantities. It allowed us to partner with someone that had boots on the ground in Europe. I had great relationships with brewers throughout Europe. And from a brand perspective, very similar story to Crosby. Family owned, started as a farm, expanding into the vendor side of the business. Very transparent, sustainably focused, authentic, and people that we generally like to hang out with. It's a portion of brand connections that a lot of companies can miss is, do you enjoy your time with these people? Are you enjoying your meetings? When we come to Europe and spend 7 days in a car, sitting next to you, Will, is that going to be an enjoyable experience or not? Like, those things matter long term. And we felt like the connection was just there from the start. And it was an awesome partnership that is, I feel like, even more recently than ever, like, blossoming. And it's been, I'm excited to see what the future holds. I think we had a lot of bullets in the chamber leading up to March, to when COVID happened, and kind of had to hit the brakes. But hopefully all this dies out, maybe in fall, maybe the winter, who knows? But as things get back to normal and we can get back to Europe again, we're excited to spend a lot of time in the region, driving around, visiting breweries, probably drinking a lot of beer, talking hops, hopefully brewing some collabs. That's what we like to do more than anything, is get into the brew house, use our product with our customers. It's amazing what you can learn when, you're forced to hang out for 6 or 8 hours with one of your customers. Relationships get deeper. Also, just seeing how our hops are used. Every brewery brews differently, so everyone has different needs, and we kind of slightly adjust things that we do to better fulfill those needs. There's nothing better than being in the market, hanging out with you guys. So look forward to the next time. But yeah, that's kind of. You could probably go into better history. I'd love to actually hear this. So, two-sided question. I'm going to take over the interview here. Question one would be, Will, when you were brewing, how did you stumble upon Crosby hops? And then question two will be, as you were working for Lagrange, when did that click for you guys that this was going to be a good partnership?
So, yes, all of that is all tied together. So I first stumbled upon Crosby hops at the 2014 Craft Brewers Conference, like I said earlier. I met Brian, I met Bo, and then ended up drinking a lot of beer with Bo that night. Kind of like you and Bo at working.
Yeah, something about Bo.
Bo and I we hung out after the trade show in 2014 and drank a lot together. And then basically I talked my boss in Atlanta into signing a hop contract with Crosby like a week later. Because, back to what you said, I liked hanging out with Bo. And at the end of the day, craft beer is a small community, and you like to buy things from people you like to drink beer with. And I don't like to buy things from people I don't like to drink beer with.
Simple formula.
Yeah.
Simple formula. So that's how I met Crosby back in 2014 and was immediately personally, as a brewer, blown away by the quality of pellet. I think hops like Chinook and Columbus have gotten a bad name for themselves because of bad processors globally. But whenever you're making a West Coast IPA, which was all the rage, I was about to say all the hate, but all the rage back in 2014, everybody was making an IPA that was crystal clear and was danky and piney and citrusy. And whenever you get your hands on Crosby, Chinook, and Columbus, you're like, yes, I want that in my beer. So I moved over to Europe in 2016 to take over as the head brewer for Galway Bay Brewery. And I wanted to continue that relationship on to my relationship with Crosby onto a brewery in Europe, which I did. And I reached out to to James, who is the owner of Locker Brewing Stores, and kind of convinced him and Crosby to start working together to import the hops that I wanted to buy from Galway Bay into Ireland. And this is before I worked for Locker Brewing Stores. I was still a brewer in Galway. So I introduced James Lochran and Crosby Hops to each other, and the relationship kind of started small, and then gradually kind of grew a little bit. And James said, "Oh well, if I can sell these hops to Galway Bay, we'll sell these hops to other brewers in Ireland too." And then that started to take off, and now we've got Crosby Hops becoming a wider known name in Ireland. So let's fast forward between 2016 and end of 2018, when I left Galway Bay, I came to work for James. He and I developed a great friendship between brewer and supplier. I saw his dedication to craft beer, to customer service, and the exact same things you spoke about earlier, Zach. The kind of principles behind Crosby Hops are the same principles behind Locker Brewing Stores. So I came to work for him, and I said, "Hey, why don't we start trying to develop this relationship and and help offer hops to other brewers in Europe and the UK." And that just kind of grew from there, I think. And I do think a lot of it is our company values just lining up perfectly. Like you said, farming background, sustainability, family, friendship, and just fun people to have pints with. And it's just kind of grown since then, and we're kind of now just starting to hit our stride in our partnership. And it's exciting to watch both both from the inside and to just sometimes take a step back and be proud of how far this partnership has come in 2 years. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't see the need for hops and great beer declining really anytime soon, whether that's in the U.S. or Europe or anywhere in the world. So it's cool to me that that craft is expanding globally, and it's even cooler to me. I was talking about this yesterday with somebody about how I feel like every other week there's a new white paper, a new study, something that's coming out around either more information we're learning about beer as a whole scientifically with new instruments, or like hop profiles using gas chromatographs and diving into all the compounds going to hops. What's really affecting flavor and aroma, what's not. And beer is this amazing thing that it's debatable how old it is. Beer's been around for thousands of years. Some people say it's the reason written language exists. Whatever you believe about it, it's had a major impact on the world. It's old. But here we are in 2020, and we're learning more and more about it every day. Something scientific about it, something about its history, something about the compounds that go in it, and ultimately it's this product that's a social lubricant that brings people together and makes people happy, which continues to drive interest and investment into making it an even better product. And I don't know all that many industries that exists. It's kind of a little bit of magic, and it's what keeps me going on a rough day. I mean, a rough day in the beer business isn't that bad. And so, I don't know, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about how fortunate we are that, A, we get to work around beer, B, are just, working in whether it's the hop business, the malt side of things, if you're a brewer yourself, if you're a bartender working in the craft beer industry, whatever, that you're surrounded by great people who care, who aren't in it to get rich, they're in it for quality of life, and that shows in how vibrant the global craft beer scene is. And I consider myself fortunate every day to be involved in it.
That something you just brought up there is something that I often think about. I've got my educational background is in anthropology, and there's this whole anthropological argument that alcohol is what convinced people to become sedentary and stop being hunter-gatherers. It convinced people to stop moving around and to actually plant things in the ground. And can you imagine being a hunter-gatherer and walking away from your camp, and then you got some seeds and some grains you picked in this bowl over here, and you left for a few days, and And when you came back, like it had rained, and then some yeast had fallen in your wet barley, your wet wheat or pie or whatever, spelt, and then you're like, I've got to eat this now. Like, I've got to eat this. I don't have anything else to eat. And just like alcoholic porridge, and then like you're kind of the first person to get drunk. Like, what kind of witchcraft is that? In an ancient prehistoric culture, like all of a sudden you are drunk and you're like just freaking out about this magic that has happened in your life. And just like you said, at the end of the day, like we work in a cool industry, and a bad day in the beer industry is probably a better day than the best day as an accountant.
Yeah, and it's again, it comes down to like, I love seeing brewers, taking responsibility and ownership for being a sustainable business. And sustainability goes a lot further than just the ecosystem around your business. It's more than just the environment. Sustainability is about the people, and to ensure that your employees have a well-balanced life, to ensure they have time to do things like be with family, maybe exercise, take some time off. Hopefully they're paid well enough to have a long-term gain or a long-term investment in your company. And that in turn is sustainability as well. And small businesses, I get it. It can be really challenging to do those things. But I get this question a lot. And as a small brewery, we get the question of like, okay, so we really want to be a sustainable business, but we can't afford to run studies on our packaging use or our waste. We can't afford to do all these things, and that's totally fair. Sometimes maybe the best thing you can do, like the first step, you make sure you're sourcing your ingredients from a sustainable producer. And that in turn makes you part of that sustainable system. And what a great way to give back to the world is in a sense, like, vote with your dollar, like make a difference with your dollar. And you need those products anyways. You need hops, you need malt. You might as well source them from someone that's doing the right thing, so you know your dollar is going to the right place, hopefully aligns with your values.
And that's something that like you said, that's something that doesn't really cost any extra money. It doesn't cost any extra time, but it does go a long way to creating a sustainable footprint, because you can choose to work with a company that has made those investments into becoming a certified B Corporation, a salmon safe corporation, and the brewer doesn't have to make those investments. They just have to trust an agricultural partner that has.
Yep. Yeah, it's the best way to start down the path of sustainability, or at least aligning with values that you want your company to represent. As a business owner, you're probably the one signing the checks, buying hops for most small businesses. Your name, your company represents you personally in that sense, and vice versa. So if you have values you want to uphold and something that empowers you to do business, aligning with the right raw ingredients providers or anyone you're working with is a great first step.
Well, let's maybe switch gears for a second. Let's talk about hop varieties and hops that Crosby does. So obviously not every supplier, not every farmer, not every processor provides the exact same varieties of hops. If you could jump in and talk to us about what Crosby does well. What varieties do you focus on as far as sourcing, as far as growing, and what can brewers put into a beer from Crosby that is absolutely banging?
Okay, so here on our farm, we have 500 acres of hops. We grow 10 varieties, soon to be 11. See how harvest goes this year for a new thing we put in. But those 500 acres only account for about, don't totally quote me on this number, but give or take, I think about 40%, maybe it's 40 to 50%, I should know that number, of our U.S., or our production, I guess, of hops that we're selling, or we're processing and selling domestically. So that leaves quite big area for us to. We've got the demand for the varieties and hops, but we can't grow everything here. Again, we're limited to about 500 acres. So we source from some great partners all around the Northwest. Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. We're also sourcing from the Czech Republic, New Zealand, Germany. And that is really beneficial for a few reasons. It gives us some flexibility and diversifies risk, which is really nice. Hop growing and being in the hop industry is a very risk-forward business. You're basically gambling on the future, and contracts help reduce that risk. But a lot of times, you're putting something in the ground this year, assuming it will be needed next year, especially as the spot market continues to be a very popular place to buy hops, not necessarily contracted. I implore everyone to please be in communication with your hop provider and sign hop contracts. It does help us reduce risk, help us be in business longer, and make better decisions about varieties that the market needs. But the spot market's always going to exist. So we're sourcing a lot, but the varieties that we grow, the ones that I think are the most exciting that we have in the ground, I would say Strata is probably the most exciting thing that we have in the ground right now, as far as the new hop that lives in that like new wave hop category of tropical citrus. It's got a slight little subtle dank thing to it that's awesome. I personally have yet to have a beer that wasn't fantastic with Strata. It's one of the few varieties that has this like 100% success rate so far, as long as it's used in the right ways. Not a hop you would probably throw in the kettle, but Whirlpool Edition and beyond is a solid use for that variety. We've been growing Amarillo for quite a while, which is the Strata's proprietary hop. It is owned by Indie Hops. It's developed by Indie and OSU. And then Amarillo is another proprietary hop. That proprietary was developed by VGF Farms. Darren Gamache, a good friend. We started growing that. I don't know off the top of my head which year we started growing that. I'm going to throw out there 2013. And that was the first proprietary variety that we started growing. For anyone that maybe doesn't know, in the world of hops, there's proprietary, there's public hops. Proprietary hops are privately bred, and an individual or entity owns that plant matter and the copyright on it to grow it as well as sell it. And then you've got public hops, which are developed in a public breeding program. USDA has a pretty robust program here in the US. And those would be hops like Cascade, Centennial, Chinook, Columbus, that variety as well. So I'm kind of sticking on the proprietary side right now, but we're growing. We're excited about Strata. Amarillo is still one of my favorite hops. It's super orangey, and a hop that I think just still works so well in West Coast IPAs and hazies as well. It does really good there. We just planted Zappa this year. This is our first harvest. Zappa's a unique hop. It's Neo Mexicanus hop. It's weird. So the name Zappa is absolutely perfect for this variety. It's the best way to describe its aroma and flavor is kind of like the color purple, which is a strange way to describe an aroma or a flavor, but it is. It's kind of like in a bag of Skittles, the purple color, that like purple flavor. It's that in a really, really nice way. It's tropical in a different way. It's cool. So that hop's interesting though because it's Neo Mexicanus, so it's developed kind of in the Southwest, not out here in the Northwest. So it grows different. Doesn't really want to climb trellis. Likes to grow on the ground. So we're trying to see if it'll climb trellis out here, or we'll find out. The story goes in the past, usually it makes it halfway up and can kind of fall down, or right before it reaches the top wire, it kind of falls down. So this is a big experiment here for us, and so far, so good. Blake sent me a picture a couple days ago, and everything is looking pretty good out there so far. So we'll see how that goes, but if that does well out here, that variety I think is really exciting. It's new and it's very different, but it still works in modern beers. So that was really cool. And then on the public side, some varieties we're stoked on that we're growing would be Comet. We are at least to our knowledge, we did as much research as we could. We couldn't find any history of any other growers in Oregon prior to us planting it 2 years ago, of people growing Comet in Oregon. So we started growing it and noticed a very stark difference in the hops that were the finished product that we're getting off those vines versus Comet grown in Washington or Idaho. They're all awesome. there's nothing. I love that variety. It's a great hop. It's a great. I wouldn't say it's a substitute or alternative, but great in conjunction with something like Citra. Has similar vibes to it. It could be a little bit grassier, a little bit pinkier at times, but still big citrus forward hop. What we noticed when we were growing in Oregon is we were getting these like lovely tropical, almost candied melon aromas and flavors that were coming off of it, versus Comet in Washington, Idaho tends to be a little more citrus, grass, and pine forward. And that was a little even herbal at times too. And that was exciting for us. Like, we had this moment of like, is this like a different variety now that it's grown out in Oregon? It's totally different. Same germplasm, same everything. So that one's been really cool. So we've been kind of like, not intentionally, but kind of marketing that as like Oregon Comet or Crosby Grown Comet. It's slightly different than everything else that's in the market. So that's been really exciting for us on the public side. We love Centennial. That's a variety that we've been growing here at the farm for a very long time. If anyone's ever had Bell's Two Hearted, that beer is exceptional. 100% Centennial IPA. I think that beer, that hop has a home in West Coast IPAs, hazy IPAs, session IPAs. They're great in pails. It's a very versatile variety, and we actually increased our acreage of that recently. So we're one of the few farms that actually increased acreage over the last year or so. Then Chinook is a favorite of mine, another hop that we grow here. You were mentioning that earlier, Will. It is again, a little bit different growing in Oregon than around Washington. Washington tends to be very like classic Chinook, which people love, which is citrus and pine. We noticed here in Oregon, the pine is toned down a little bit, and that tropical note is accented. So something in the terroir has changed that. So Oregon Chinook is pretty phenomenal.
I find I want to jump in on Chinook there because I absolutely love it. And I've brewed with Chinook for multiple suppliers, and I find that most Chinooks that you get your hands on have this like really resiny, deep pine character that you feel like you just can't get off of your tongue.
Yeah.
And it makes you, as a brewer, use it very sparingly in both the kettle and the dry hop. But I feel with the Crosby Chinook that you get this almost deep orange marmalade thing going with the pine, that really tarry resinous thing still there, but very much in the background. And you've got this really nice tropical mandarin orange marmalade thing going on up front. So absolutely spot on stuff.
Yeah, I love that variety. I missed this earlier. This will be our first harvest of El Dorado this year here on our farm. In the past couple of years, we've been sourcing El Dorado from CLS in Washington. Eric Desmarais is a phenomenal grower. Also developed that variety, so he just nails it. So we got the license to grow that. So we'll be harvesting this year. Really excited about that. El Dorado is one of my favorite varieties. I think it fits that new wave hop category. Tropical, big tropical, pretty big citrus, and has that like mellow jaminess in the background of it. It's really nice. It's really versatile. Awesome for new wave IPAs. And then what else am I missing? And then we also grow Crystal, Mount Hood, a little bit of Golding, and Sterling. Sterling is a variety that I absolutely love. That doesn't get the same amount of love in the world, but people are starting to come back around to it. It's a great substitute for something like Czech Sots. Sots is a challenging variety to get your hands on sometimes. It's limited acreage, quality's kind of all over the map. There's some great Sots that exist. There's also some really low quality Sots that exist. So really it's a great way that if you are short on Sots or just want to stretch it out a bit or find a replacement that may be more consistent and maybe more economical, Sterling is that. And I really enjoy that variety. That one's actually right behind Blake's dad, Kevin, lives on the farm, and his house, his backyard is 15 acres of Sterling. So it's kind of like our home yard that we love to look at all the time. It's beautiful. And then some varieties that we were sourcing that we're really excited about. Let's see, where's my brain going to go to? Cashmere is something that is kind of newer to the market. It's a newer public variety. There's some debate. Any new hop, this is what I love about industry. Any new hop that comes out, there's debate. There's gonna be people that love it off the rip, people that are definitely are questioning. Is this really the next great hop? Let's run it through the GC and get all the data we can and pull out of it, see what it really brings to the table. And what I've found, and I got to do a handful of collabs for CBC this year with Cashmere, is that it brings this like in a really good way, this like Tropicana sweet, that like fake tropical orange juice flavor, but it's lovely when paired with another tropical forward hop, or even something like Chinook. We did a collab with Mother Road, and it was Chinook and Cashmere. Chinook was actually grown by Firewater, some of our friends out in Washington. And then the Cashmere, I want to say it was grown by them as well. I might be wrong by that. But the Cashmere brought this nice, like, subtle, tropical, almost like stone fruit is like a round flavor. And then, like, that round mouthfeel and flavor, like, capped off the Washington Chinook that had this nice pine citrus thing to it. And it was a lovely balance. And we also did a collab that had Velma and Cashmere, and another really cool hop combo. Velma brought this, like, we brewed that with Equilibrium, and that Velma has this like strawberry quality to it, and the Cashmere really elevated that quality because you had this, like, again, Tropicana fruit juice thing that acted as the base layer, and this nice strawberry component from Velma sat on top of it. It was lovely. So that was a learning, eye-opening experience this year to discover how well Cashmere works as a pairing hop. And then a variety that I think is doing so well, and I'm excited for its success. We were championing that variety as it was brand new, is Idaho 7. I've been seeing that grow globally. And Blake and Bo and Brian were at Nate Jackson's farm when there was 9 experimental varieties he was working on. It's Idaho number 1, number 2, number 3, all the way to number 9. And I think Blake or Bo or one of them was just like, hey, like, number 7, this is a killer hop. This has a chance. And so we took that hop on early on. We had Idaho's number 7, and I think we had number 4 for a little while that we were selling, maybe back in 2015. And then Idaho 7 just grabbed hold. It's pineapple, it's tropical. It can be a little bit of black tea and dank that kind of comes from it, but the pineapple just dominates in that aroma and flavor profile. And we've been championing that variety. Love it, great. It can be used as a single hop variety. In my opinion, it's best when paired with something like Dorado or paired with Amarillo or something else. It's a great pairing.
One thing I found with Idaho 7 and Tom at Galway Bay and I were talking about this exact topic this morning when I was out there, is that it can pair with absolutely anything. Like, it's not a hop that has certain hops it doesn't want to be next to. Like, you can literally put Idaho 7 next to anything in either a supporting role or a starring role, and Idaho 7 is still going to be amazing.
Yeah.
You really mess it up with what you put it alongside. And like you said, it can be a single hop, or it can play that role of being next to something in any way possible. And it just...
Yeah. It has its own character. Like, it's got this tropical thing that, again, pineapple is what screams at me in that variety, to where, it's never overpowering, but it always is there. It works well. That flavor and aroma profile works well with so many varieties. And, like, so Crystal is a variety that is a great variety to elevate the other hops that are within it. I feel like Idaho 7 does the elevating, but doesn't hide behind it. It still has its own character that lives next to it, but is a great pairing hop that always, for the most part, adds positive attributes to those flavor and aroma profiles that accentuate the beer and make it more exciting, give it a little more depth. It's a killer variety. We love it. We have an acre planted in our farm. Idaho 7 grown in Oregon is an awkward thing to try to describe. There's like that company Orida that makes potatoes, but we call it Orida 7. What are we doing here? But we have an acre of it. We'll probably sell it maybe for fresh hops this year. That will put really anything in pellet form. But we're just kind of figuring it out. If you've ever seen the plant, it's kind of in a good way. It's like a freak alien plant. The cones are like extremely dense. They're like almost heavy. Some of them have almost this like square-like shape to it. They almost have little corners in it. It's very interesting. And there are cones top to bottom of this plant. So it's a beautiful looking plant. Aromas are crazy. Cool hop. I'm really excited to see that one grabbing legs. And noticing it really taking off globally too. Taking off in Europe, taking off in Australia. It's exciting.
That one's taken off absolutely everywhere, and we 100% love it. So, that being said, I think we're going on about an hour. Does anybody...
Didn't want to break up the bromance. Okay, we'll wrap things up. That was great, and we can chat soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Next up on Brew Crack, we'll be talking to two influential women in the Irish craft beer industry.
Log on, follow our Instagram, follow our Facebook, and follow our Twitter to get the latest updates on what we're up to and what our suppliers are up to and what our customers are up to. Cheers.